MarkRogersTV going to the ACC to track down positional units across the conference. We bring in John Cassillo from Noon's Magician to help us out with Syracuse. John, always breaking down the orange for us. Let's get to wideout. People always love the wide receiver breakdown. Typically the best athletes on the field along with the secondary, John. So you got three primary guys starting with Steve Ishmael. And looking through his game log, a number of very impressive showings, not in regards to yardage or necessarily a number of catches, but big plays against Wake Forest where he caught a touchdown in a close victory. Western Michigan, overtime win, caught a 62-yard reception. And against Pitt, you barely lost that one by a field goal, and he had a huge day, 7 catches for $114.
Yeah, I mean, Ishmael definitely seems like he's starting to get a little bit of hype. I know some folks even around the conference are talking about him as a real breakout guy in the Dino Babers offense. I mean, in the old offense, there wasn't enough passing. There weren't enough passes to go around either. I think with all the quarterback injuries and things throughout his first 2 years, having some stability there. I mean, he's, like you said, he's had some big games last year. His freshman year, he really had, I want to say it was like about 6 catches for 140 and 2 touchdowns against Florida State. Like, that was no slouch secondary. Ishmael definitely seems like he's going to be one of the most, if not the most direct beneficiary from the change in offensive system.
Ishmael coming into his junior season, 7 touchdown receptions last season. Then you've got a couple of guys who have some marginal numbers, but again, the passing offense being what it was with the quarterback issues last year. Brisly Estime coming into a senior campaign. Ervin Phillips as a junior caught 5 touchdown passes.
I think Brisly is going to be more of the deep threat. I know that's just something we've struggled with in recent years, probably since Marcus Sales left back in 2012. I think he's gonna do well as a wide receiver. I think you'll see him play a little bit of deep threat, and then from there, I think it's really just up for debate. You know, he doesn't always have the surest hands downfield. I think, to be honest, from my perspective, most of his best contributions will be from the return game. I think Ervin Phillips is arguably the fastest guy on the team. And that's going to result in, some potential big plays. I mean, we saw a little bit of what he could do last year as kind of a hybrid receiver running back. I think this year he's going to play mostly in the slot, which should be a great kind of safety valve for Dungy to get in the field for this new offense. So
I'm guessing 3 wide is going to be pretty consistent most plays, probably 80-90% of the time. And these 3 guys are pretty well entrenched into those spots, but you're going to see 4 and 5 wide on a number of plays, and past these 3, you're going to have to sort out some names for us.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think what you saw from Dino Babers after spring practice is he kind of moved a couple guys who were slotted in at running back, or even one guy who was a walk-on quarterback, slotted guys into receiver. I think, the key to this offense is just having fresh bodies and fresh legs out there all the time, so that you can continue to cycle in new guys and keep that speed up. So beyond those 3, someone like Tyrone Perkins, who was kind of brought in as a running back originally, seems like someone who could make a big impact. Alvin Cornelius, he's a veteran, but he's a guy that, we've talked about for a couple of years. 2 guys I'm really excited to see a little bit more from, Adley Anoisi and Jamal Custis. Both of them are really kind of built like some huge tight ends. I mean, both of them are kind of hanging around the 6'5", around 230 range. I know Custis got to do a few jump balls around the goal line last year and the year before, and that seemed to work pretty well. I'd love to see him in particular involved. Anoisi hasn't seen the field just yet, but again, I think he's someone who could carve out a nice niche, especially in red zone situations.
John, we both know the 2 positions that have been phased out across the country over the last 10 years are tight end and fullback, and it's a situation with the tight end in particular where, a new head coach comes in, new offense, what's going to happen to me because of drastic just changes in offensive philosophy from team to team these days. Your thoughts about the tight end position and who's in play?
I think the tight end position this year might go on a 1-year hiatus. You look at Babers' previous offenses, and there's really not a lot of targets. There's not a whole lot of catches either. These are guys that are largely put on the field for their blocking ability, especially in the run game. So right now, I know Cam McPherson is listed atop the depth chart. That might hold, but to be honest, as long as he can stay on the field and stay healthy, which has been a problem. Kendall Moore, who's a converted center, moved to tight end, moved back to center, he's back at tight end. over the course of his career. Moore is a great blocker. You saw it last year when he was healthy, how much better the downfield blocking was in both the passing and rushing game for Syracuse. So, again, if he can stay healthy, I think that you'll see a lot of blocking from him. And the next year, tight ends will probably be reincorporated, but in a very different capacity from what we've done in the last few seasons.
Okay, Moore with all of 3 catches last year and McPherson with 2. So maybe those numbers stay right about where they were. All right, it's a Syracuse wide receiver and tight end situation going into 2016. I'll ask you this general question as a capper, John. How do you feel about the group?
I feel like the top 3 receivers are guys you can rely upon, and there's not a ton of teams that you can really bank on 3. I know the numbers don't indicate it, but from watching that team twice every week, I do the game recaps as well. I see a lot from those 3 players, and if they can stay on the field, and if a couple of these other guys can play some valuable snaps, keep everybody fresh, I think you could see a better group than we might think right now. I think they're still a year or 2 away from really being incorporated into a true Babers kind of spread and 5-wide system, but I think this group still has plenty of potential this year.
And, of course, Josh Parris in play as well, caught 43 passes in his 3 years at Syracuse, including 21 last season. John Cassillo from Noon's Magician helping us out at wide receiver for Syracuse. Thanks a lot, John.
Of course, Mark.